Hi, and welcome back to another one of our nextNYC company spotlights. I am super excited to have my co-host Eric from KPMG here and to have our founder guest, Jen Wirt, who is the founder of Coral Care. Jen, can you tell us a little bit about what Coral Care does?
Yeah, so Coral Care is building the infrastructure to support parents who have children with varying developmental needs. And so I like to describe our business kind of on two sides. On one side of the marketplace, we have families who are looking for care for their children, ages 0 to early adulthood. Care with us looks like physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. It's 100% in person, in home. And so to a parent, really the product for them is someone wonderful and coming and working with their child on a weekly basis. On the other side of the business, we've built business in a box infrastructure for clinicians to independently go into private practice in their local communities. And so we handle insurance, billing, credentialing, scheduling, matching, filling their whole caseload, really everything that they need to just go and work with families.
What's the complexity behind that? Because I imagine there's maybe like state to state differences. And what was the hard part that you had to figure out there?
Everything is hard, I think I will say. And it's interesting because in the early days of building Coral Care in my earlier rounds, I got a lot of pushback, like you should just do virtual care. It takes away one level of complexity. It's still complex, but it takes away one level. And I really held firm because I think on both sides of the marketplace, there is a massive benefit to having the human-to-human interaction on a regular basis in person together in the space that kids are most comfortable. And so what that means for us is it is a state-by-state expansion. Every state has a different set of payers, so it requires contracting with different payers in every single state. They all operate differently, have different credentialing timelines. It does mean every market is different. And so it does mean reaching parents and how we talk to them, reaching providers and how we talk to them does have nuance depending on where we are. There are different legal regulations. Some states where PCMSO structures, there are just different legal requirements in every single state. And then there's a lot of complexity around matching in a hyperlocal environment, especially in a multi-specialty space. Like you can't put a physical therapist with a child who needs speech. Obviously, people have to get in their car and drive. And so that adds a lot of complexity. And so it's certainly harder, but it's awesome when you figure it out.
Yeah, it definitely sounds complex. As a father of two children, I appreciate you trying to make anything on the parent side easier. Any particular reasons you came to focus on this realm, and maybe get into a little bit about what you and the founding team did prior to this?
Yeah, so my background has always been in consumer product marketing and product management. I started in hardware and connected devices, moved kind of as devices got smarter, moved to the connected side, and then more into pure software. In behavior change and digital health, I was at Weight Watchers for a bit. While I was working at a few digital health companies, I became a mom, and my older daughter had developmental delays and just went through the incredibly harrowing experience of trying to find help. The anxiety around is what I'm seeing normal? Will my child catch up? And what does catching up mean? Went through the experience of being handed list after list of who do you call and what does this mean? And why are they telling me to wait, but they're telling me that I can't wait? And so I lived with that for a while and kind of got through it. Found a pathway to get my daughter private support, paid money I didn't have, and then moved on in life to kind of the next phase of parenting, and had a friend kind of talk to me about going through it again many years later. And I was like, how is this still a thing? How is this still a problem? And I dug into it. I was like, I think now I know how to solve this.
Can you talk about the raise a little bit? By the way, Aria from Haymaker is going to be at our next pre-Series A offsite. And I asked what recent investment that you made you're most excited about. And Coral Care was the answer. And I'm curious, given the fact that there have been multiple two-sided marketplaces and various aspects of therapy and all of this sort of stuff, what you think the key to getting investors on board has been, especially folks that I don't know if the majority of the people on your cap table have gone through this issue. Maybe they have. But what do you think was the key to establishing that this is a venture backable and big opportunity?
Yeah, I think, so this was my Series A. I did a priced seed, and I did a pre-seed round. It was really different experience in all three rounds. In the time between our seed and our Series A, we focused on cleaning house, knowing our business inside and out, having the right data in the right place, accessible in the right way, so that we know where to focus. We know what's breaking right when it breaks, or ideally before it breaks. We can really predict where the business is growing. And so one of the things that we kept hearing during the raise is like, your data looks like a Series B company would have. And so we really became a data company, which I think is ultimately what it takes to be a marketplace business, is that you have to be a data company. And so when we went into the Series A raise, that was really appealing to a lot of investors who could very clearly see, like, this is how the business can run. We know where it's going. We know what inputs have to happen and when for this to actually be true. And we had proven it not just in our initial market, but in a few markets that we had grown into. And we were also very transparent about what we learned along the way. We're really like a test and learn culture. And so I don't know, maybe I'm too transparent. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I felt like I wanted the investor, like, you're selling a piece of your business to these investors. They're going to be with you for a long time and work with you. And if you can't talk about what was hard and that things are hard, and if everything is just like sunny and wonderful, what happens when something does go wrong? Then it's like, I just wanted to make sure that we were bringing the right people in. And I think that attitude plus that data resulted in finding really aligned investors.
Yeah, that's an important tidbit and probably really good advice for other founders out there as they go through the raise process. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the goals you have as a company with the new round, and if there's any positions you're looking to fill or anything like that, feel free to promote it.
We are hiring, and we're hiring in New York. So we have 2 open roles on the marketing side. We have a lifecycle marketer, and we're looking for, we're calling it a brand marketer, but really we're looking for somebody that knows how to do local on the ground activations at scale. So somebody that's done like experiential. Both of those roles are consumer marketing only, because that is both sides of our marketplace. And we're hiring 2 ops roles, some kind of unique position for somebody maybe early/mid career, opportunities to jump in and support different business units around like workflow optimization and kind of like setting. So much has changed even in the last few months with technology. We have all these tools available to us now. And so leveraging those tools to grow our business and set us up for scale. And then the last one, we're hiring a full stack engineer.
We will make
Great.
sure.
Well, congrats again on the raise.
Thank you.
We'll make sure we get that out to our list. Actually, one other question I want to ask. I feel like you might have a unique user experience challenge, and maybe this was based on some of the professionals that are the caregivers, the practitioners on your space that are not necessarily on the cutting edge of tech savviness. And there's quite a range of diversity of like ages. Like our provider had been doing this for quite a long time. I would imagine that the design and operations challenge has to account for a fairly diverse user base of varying levels of technology sophistication.
Yeah, we have always on support because that certainly is an issue that arises. I don't know, I had experience working at a company that was doing retail analytics for mom and pop business owners. And one thing that I learned there is that you just get such a wide range of tech savviness, and you ultimately need to design for your least savvy user. You're savvy, like, you don't have to worry about your more savvy users. They just want it to work. But in that experience, I really focused on designing for the least savvy. And I brought that into this experience around like, how do we just make things so obvious? And then how do we quickly iterate if it wasn't as obvious as we thought it was?
Last question before we let you go. Do you have any advice for founders raising and embarking on your Series A? I appreciate what you said about transparency. And I do think that blowing smoke is not the best way to start a trusted relationship. But what else? What would you go back and tell yourself before you started the Series A raise process that would have helped you or other founders in this raise?
In every round, it's a numbers game. And I think like what I learned, what made this round for me, I did this round very quickly. I did it, I think, in 6 weeks. What made it so effective, one of the things that made it effective for me is that in prior rounds, I took it personally. I think especially when you have a lived experience that resulted in a mission-driven company, you are your business, right? Like, it's hard to pull your identity from that. And so I took it personally. And in like the year and a half between my 2 rounds, I became friends with a lot of my investors and kind of understood what they were going through. And a lot of the time, it has nothing to do with you at all. They have obligations within their own fund. A lot of people I found investors take the meeting either because they're curious, they want to know what's going on, for various reasons, they might take the meeting without any intent. And that's fine. But so you can't take it personally that they're passing or not responding, truthfully. That happens more often than not, because it oftentimes has nothing to do with you. What the climate was, when I was raising in the fall, was I had a lot of people say like, hey, we're only investing in fully AI businesses right now. And like, we send humans to homes. We use AI, but there's the human. I can't change that, nor do I want to. It's not about me. It's about it's really ultimately about what their need is, and it's just not a match. And so find those that suss that out pretty quickly. Don't take it personally. Don't overly invest in those that aren't proceeding with you. Really move your funnel along efficiently and just reach out to more numbers. Like, it ultimately just comes down to how many calls you're willing to do.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. Really appreciate it. I'm sure there are definitely ops folks and full stack engineers out there who maybe don't want to work for an AI company and want to work for Team Human.
Mm-hmm.
And really appreciate what you're doing. Congrats again.
Thank you. We do use AI, I will say, but yeah.
Of course.
You have to. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.